Hi, this is your host Swapnil Bhartiya and welcome to another episode of TFR Let's Talk. And today we have with us Ben Wilson, Senior Developer at Kali Linux, and Billy Thompson, Solutions Engineer at Akamai Linode. Ben, Billy, it's great to have you both on the show.
Likewise, thank you.
Thank you.
Ben, if you can just quickly tell us, just give us, our viewers a quick, update on what is Kali Linux and what role it's playing in, the security industry.
Every Linux distribution is created for a reason, okay? So ours, we've kind of taken the infosec aspect, we're kind of targeting that. Then inside of infosec, even though it's quite a small area and it's really new and it's only kind of starting to find its feet, there's actually even sections inside it. So we've kind of narrowed it down into pen testing. So Kali is based upon Backtrack, which is then based upon Wax. The project itself has had various name changes, like I've just said, over the years. And this is all to signal that there's been major changes and problems that we've overcome. So Kali came about because of, like I said, Wax, and Wax was developed because Matty, the founder of it all, he created the operating system because he was doing a pen test. Now, this pen test was on an air-gapped network, so he could only take in a CD that he burnt. He wasn't allowed to take in anything else. So rather than taking just like the packages and the setup files, this was the era when live distributions in Linux was taking off. So he thought, you know what, I'll give my hand a try at this. So he created a live CD and he put a load of infosec tools into it. He went ahead, tried it, and then every single night he was after this, we would finish this assessment, then go back, tweak it a little bit more, come back in the next day and use the next version of it all. After the assessment was done, he said, I'm actually quite proud of this. I put a bit of work in. I'm just going to chuck it online, and if it helps anyone else, cool. And that's really how the start came about. It was created by a pen tester for pen testing.
Billy, I would like to, because you're also kind of enthusiast and expert in that field, talk a bit about if you had any kind of experience with Kali. Of course, that is a totally different field of expertise, but when did the proposal to bring Kali to Linode showed up, or how did that happen? Talk about your own experience and then of course this relationship.
I am a pen testing with Kali student. That's a course that they offer through Offensive Security. And I remember taking that, and I had to take a VMware image and install it on my local computer, which I intentionally have a smaller hard drive for so that I can't accumulate too many files. It's just a security thing for me personally. And so I have kind of thought, if there was a way to do this more cloud-based, like that may be more helpful for some situations like mine back when I took it, and maybe more helpful for students in the future. So that's just kind of been a lingering thought. But where this comes from is we've always been friendly and supportive of security researchers and pen testers on the platform. In fact, leading up to this, we've already had sponsored content on YouTube and other channels. But over the past year and a half or so, we saw a pretty significant increase in new customers, and this is small, mid-market, and up to enterprise, coming onto Linode for red team activities. And that was just happening organically without us doing anything outside of just being who we are. And some of those reasons vary. Like in some cases, they're realizing that pen testing from within the same cloud provider's network isn't as real of a world simulation. Maybe that provider isn't as friendly towards pen testing, or maybe they're used to doing on-prem stuff, but they're now taking advantage of the efficiency and agility of cloud computing. And before officially supporting Kali Linux, we received feedback that the manual process for installing it on a Linode was less than ideal. So it just became obvious that we should lower the barrier of entry, and that would make Linode a better experience for them. And then we had some conversations with some of these customers. We mentioned to them that we were thinking about this, and the response was overwhelmingly positive.
Excellent. As Ben was earlier explaining, when we look at the infosec or pen testing tools, it's more like air-gapped system, or you just kind of isolate it. But bringing it to the cloud, can you talk a bit about you did talk about your customer, but I want to understand, that where does it fit in? Who is it serving? Who is the target audience? Who is it catering to? by bringing it to the cloud?
This is serving, let's say, large enterprises who want to be able to scale up massive pen tests against a whole bunch of their infrastructure. It's targeting people doing education about it, and it's targeting even small to mid-market security firms that do pen testing as a service. And another gate that I think it opens is there's already companies that are doing pen test as a service as part of their DevSecOps workflow. And I believe this is the next step in making Linode a solution for that.
There's a few things that jump out at me to answer your question. The first one being the idea of Kali, we want it to be ready to go out of the box. And being on the cloud, that just helps to automate that aspect. I mean, like you say, the setup process, rather than you having to go through next, and customize it, you click a button, you've got a nice GUI, it's there for you. It's making it easier and you're getting the tools quicker to your hands. Yes, you can do it, and if you want to take the time to customize it and start to tweak it, you can install it and do it there. That also works as well.
Billy, Linode, is Linode the first cloud provider to offer Kali? If that's true, once again, what does it mean for, I mean, you did touch upon that, but what does it mean not only for Linode users, but users in general who did want access to the tool, but, as Ben mentioned, or we were talking about, sometimes that, the whole process of getting it on a live USB drive can become challenging.
To my knowledge, we are the first alternative cloud provider to partner with Kali and make it an officially supported distribution rather than going through a process of making it into an image and uploading it into the image. And then where we have both the base image, which again, I'm going to point out DevSecOps. I think that's kind of key to that. But then we also bring it to the marketplace, which kind of gives you that full desktop experience, if you will, as if you had the CD and you were installing it.
Ben, I want to talk to you because you talked about the evolution of the name and the project itself. Now we live in a cloud-centric, cloud-native world. I mean, of course, we have on-prem, we still use, but everybody is kind of moving to cloud. How is the infosec community and these tools also evolving? Of course, Kali has its own limitation, or you also see that the project has been evolving to cater to a much larger use case out there to just help the whole DevSecOps community there.
Kali's roadmap, we have a rough idea of what we want to do, but it's quite often the case of we don't know until we know, because it's such a quick evolving industry and it's just forever changing. We want to try and adapt whatever the industry is doing. We want to be able to adapt and go with it. So this gives us the flexibility, and we want to be as responsive as possible. And that's what we kind of have been trying to do for generations, years, and we are hopefully going to keep on doing it this way.
And today, who would you consider your target audience, once again, in today's cloud-centric world?
Professional penetration testers is the person that we're going for. That doesn't mean it's not only other people can't use it. Like hobbyists, for example, will use it. People that do CTFs and everything else along the like, they also can use it. But yeah, our primary people that we're targeting is professional pen testers.
Earlier, you did touch upon, that different link distributions, they are specialized for different, task and use case. Kali, bundles, optimizes all the tools that are available. Folks can, get that on Ubuntu, Debian, Knoppix, or whatever they want. Why it's a better idea to go with a distribution like Kali if you are focusing purely on that space?
There's a couple of reasons why that jump out to me. If you're doing a pen test, you've kind of got a set time frame. You might do, say, 2 weeks assessment. You've got a limited window where you want to be doing the on-site engagement. You don't want to be wasting it. You want just to be, sit down. You want to do what you do best. You want to hack. And you don't want to be messing around. You don't want to be installing things. You don't want to be doing dependencies. You want your tools to be trustworthy and reliable. You want it to go. That's what Kali's aiming to be for. Now, there's a trade-off being the latest and greatest, and there's also a versus being stable. Kali does actually support both of them, because inside of Kali, you can enable the bleeding edge repo, so therefore you get the latest tools. But again, the latest tools may have bugs, but that's on the user's perspective to engage which ones they want to spend time debugging the problems, or do they actually want to do the, let's say, more stable hacking aspect of it all. Then in Kali, there's various tweaks that we do. Like one of them, traditionally in the Linux model, you have privileged ports. So anything under, was it 1024 TCP, normally you would need root access. We've removed all that in Kali because for various reasons why. We also enable old legacy protocols that are seen unsafe. Samba version 1, various versions of OpenSSL. We've purposely enabled them, allowing you to talk to as many services as possible. As talking to more services increases your attack surface, more chance of finding more vulnerability. Older devices will use older services. So if it's older services, it might be end of life. Therefore, there's more chance there's issues and therefore more vulnerabilities. There's more chance of you getting your initial foothold. So we're trying to give you the ability to talk to as many different things as possible. And the other one that kind of comes to mind is there are various tools that are exclusive that you can only find inside of Kali.
You also talk about some tools which are exclusive. Talk a bit about those, and also are they developed by the Kali community, or they are like open source tools that are just like, you folks are leveraging?
A bit of both, to be fair. So yes, there are tools that they will push out, and Kali is open source. Our packages are open source. So if you want your tool to be included, you can just do a merge request. You can go through the whole process, and therefore it can be added. We also do sponsor a few tools as well, so that gives us exclusive access to their content ahead of the time before it goes public as well.
How do you look at, when you talk about DevSecOps, security is no longer an afterthought. It is becoming a priority. The Uber hack few weeks ago, of course, that was a totally related topic, but the fact is that even companies as big as Uber, who kind of pioneered some of the cloud native technologies, even if they can get hacked, even if it's social engineering, that is worrisome. So talk a bit about, bringing Kali to Linode. How does it also kind of bring security not as an afterthought, but security as the first step when you write a code or develop things? So talk about the role that these kind of projects play in kind of helping companies at least start thinking about security from day one, not day 10.
Absolutely. So you think about just about every company is taking advantage of the cloud, right? They're moving things out of prem. They're having multi-cloud strategies. They're doing things cloud native. That's just where things are. And in that, you need to think about more than just development and how you're going to scale your infrastructure. Security is a practice. It's something you have to bake into your culture. So having something like Kali on the same cloud platform that they're using it, I think shines the flashlight on that even more. And the fact is, offensive security is extremely important for everyone. It's important for your application security, for your infrastructure security, whether it's a professional pen tester or whether it's an 18-year-old breaking into Uber. You find the holes and you patch them, and it makes everyone safer. And so, from our point of view, this is just doing with security the same thing as with everything we do. We're trying to make it as simple, affordable, and accessible to everyone that we can.
In early days, security, as I said, was the last, we'll talk about that later, but these days security should more or less like the airbags or brakes in the car. You don't install them after you buy a car. So talk a bit about, how you have seen the things evolve and how Kali can help folks in, we talk a lot about, finding problems before or patching holes before attack actually happens. So talk a bit about the role that Kali can play, and by bringing it to Linode, it will actually help users even more.
So you can start to think when you create a program that you've got so many new technologies and stacks and that go along with it, and they've got security in a sense in their frameworks that's trying to have it in from the word go. Rather than doing an afterthought, if you can develop a code securely from the word go, long term, it's going to be a much better product. But once you've actually got the code and it's ready to go and you've got it shipped out, you're going to have it hosted somewhere. And again, you want to be continuously scanning, you want to be continuously looking, and this is where Kali really comes to shine its light.
One more thing that you folks, we both touched upon, that the fact is security is not a product, it's a process, it's a cat and mouse game. The bad actor has to be right only once. You have to be right 101 times, So once again, talk a bit when you talk about the process, once again, culturally, folks should not look at security, hey, you know what, we install that tool, we are done, as you also touched upon that, Ben. So just, what's your advice for folks And I would like to hear, insight from both Ben and Billy, that how folks can kind of embrace the culture of security, not security as a product.
I think there's this this negative feeling about pen testing, specifically about red teaming activities, and that's the culture change that I want to see, right? Is to embrace it, to bring it forward. Yes, we want this. We need to poke holes so that we can find the gaps, so that we can patch them, because this inherently makes us safer. And if we don't find them, then somebody else is going to. So by making this not just a supported distribution and making it simple to use, but even promoting it on the platform, I feel like we're doing that part to promote the red team offensive security type culture as it pertains to infosec.
I would say, yeah, it's the mindset, and when people you can read about it in the books and you can theory, and you can kind of gloss over it. But when you actually have real life examples and you know of problems that have happened, and it then rings home, it really then starts to have people have the wake up call, and that's when people really start to have awareness. My partner, for example, she had some account got breached and password was shared. And then it was like, I kind of said to her, all right, so where else have you used this password? And then when you said, oh, I've used that password in other places, the penny then drops. And then ever since then, it kind of then has been built in more into, mindsets, and it's just behavior then changes.
I would want to add too, right? Think about just how competitive the cloud landscape is. Right. Think about how many SaaS products and how everyone's racing to shave just milliseconds off of an API call, because that's what gives them customers over the one that's just like it. Well, there is nothing that is going to stomp on some success worse than a really bad, really embarrassing security incident. So adopting this culture of embracing pen testing, red team activities, and finding that and making that part of your DNA is also just going to help you keep that competitive edge.
When we look at red teaming, I don't know how pervasive it is or how companies are actually, actually doing it in person. We talk a lot about chaos engineering, which is more or less about testing how resilient your system is, not like breaking the system but testing them. So do you feel that we need the same kind of awareness in that context also, so that once again folks are, it's not like, hey, what is red testing? People do understand what it is, and there is like, they do these on regular basis. How much do you think is already happening, and do you think that we are still at the stage where a lot of awareness is needed for organizations to embrace these practices?
I think we're still at a stage where more awareness is needed, particularly around the offensive security red teaming part of it. A lot of these security awareness trainings and stuff that I've seen are more just, about the blue team side of things, and less about why we should embrace, the red team side of things. So I still feel like there's a big gap there, and I still feel like we have a long way to come, even though we're very far along. But I definitely think that in itself should be built into just awareness overall.
The weakest part of most security defenses is always the human element. It doesn't matter if it's the blue side or the red side, they're always going to be the weakest point. So any form of training, no matter what you're doing, is always going to be strengthening. So however it works, depending on what your job role is or however you use the product, having awareness and just using the product and having security in mind is always going to be better, and it's always going to have benefits.
What about support? Of course, Linode is known for great support, and the best support is the one that you don't have to call in for. But talk about if users do need support for Kali, what are the options available to them?
Yep, we stand by our award-winning 24/7 support. If customers are experiencing issues with their deployments, either from the base image or the marketplace app, they can reach out via phone, email, or ticket, and someone will be happy to assist. For implementations of using it, such as with DevSecOps, they can fill out a form on our professional services page to talk to my team about a project doing so. And if there are new feature requests for the marketplace app, such as perhaps they want another VDI like Apache Guacamole, they can either reach out for that via support ticket or send that to feedback@linode.com.
Ben, last question for you is that because of Linode, a lot of users will be coming to Kali who may not have been otherwise target audience. What would be, I mean, of course, there are a lot of documentations, manuals there, but what would be your advice to them, how they should approach Kali so that they can, reap most benefits without falling into any unnecessary traps that come with these kind of specialized distributions?
Try it, use it, and don't do something stupid. That's generally how I got my experience. I would probably expand on it a little bit to say, give it a try, find out, make sure you got permission. There's various different things you can do. There's so many great resources out there now where you can find a vulnerable target that you're legally allowed to break into, and then find out what you need to do. So then start doing the homework and the process. And there's so many resources, I say, where you can actually then start to get a foothold. Free, paid for. There's, again, free courses, paid courses. Go down whatever route works for you. Some people like to do it. Some people like to watch. Some people like to read. Everyone's different. Just try, find out, and crawl, walk, run.
The human error is the weakest point. And so where I think there needs to be a change in awareness, and where bringing the red team into that awareness, and this was something I gained out of being a student for offensive security, is instead of just thinking, okay, I check the box of a password manager, I check the box for this and that, right, the blue team side of it, but thinking more in terms of, with the knowledge I have, if I were to hack myself, where would I start? And just thinking of it from that perspective, that lens, where can I find holes in my own process, is something I think needs to be built into awareness training.
Billy, Ben, thank you so much for taking time out today, and of course talk about Kali Linux, its arrival on Linode, and also the importance of understanding this security implication, and have a culture built into your organization where you are regularly testing your systems against such vulnerabilities or any holes that can be there. Now, the biggest thing is that bugs are part of software development. As long as you're writing software, there will be bugs, and there is not much you can do about it. But human errors, once again, that is not, you can solve a problem there. So you need to have a processes in place, and Kali Linux can play a very big critical role there in organizations. So thanks for sharing those insights, and I would love you folks back on the show. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.